Hey everyone, welcome back to Sevenfold. Today we're looking at Rhino Inside once again, and there's a new feature that's coming out. This is looking at a beta release because this is 30 days ahead of the official release, but in version 1.0 or later, you're going to be able to have persistence in your create components in Revit. So if you don't know what that means, go ahead and stick around for this tutorial. I'm going to show a couple examples that I've whipped up on screen. And the great thing, basically in short, is that when you sync your changes into the central model in Revit and someone else opens up the same model with the same scripts in a different place, that script is going to remember those elements, those components, those, all the different elements that you just generated or worked with, and it's not going to regenerate those. So you're going to be able to maintain things like levels, grids, walls, adaptive components, right? You're not going to recreate those every single time you run the script. It's going to have memory with that. So that's the most exciting piece. Anything with a blue component is how this works, but I'm going to go ahead and take you through a live demo. I highly recommend getting your hands on the latest copy, and I'll show you how to opt into the work in progress as well in this demo. So let's go ahead and just dive in. So I've already gone ahead and fired up Rhino Inside, and I'm actually running Revit 2022, but this should work with any version of Revit that you've currently got running. One of the first things I mentioned to get into the beta program, if you don't already have Rhino Inside 1.0 for public release, is go down to the More section. There's a little drop down here, and go over to the options and open up the options. And in there, you're going to be able to go to updates. And you can say, give me the work in progress daily builds. Otherwise, public releases is the default option. And once this goes to 1 etc., that will have the feature we covered today. But I got excited and wanted to produce this video. Okay, so once you do that, it's going to go ahead and pop you over to the McNeil website. You're going to download the MSI file. You'll need to close Revit and install Rhino Inside. With it closed, you don't have to restart your computer. You should be able to fire it right back up and see this feature happening. Okay, so once you've got that going, go ahead and fire up Grasshopper by just hitting the Grasshopper component here. And then I've got this script whipped up on this side. And just to quickly demonstrate what's going on in this one, I've got a wall create component, which lives right there in the Revit tab. And is that off screen? Yeah. So I have put the wall component here on the Rhino Inside canvas, and if I just take a look at where that lives, it's up here. And like I mentioned, anything with the blue color is going to be one of those add or create components. I'm not going to explain why this is the only one that applies to the persistence relationship. The rest of this stuff is reading the information from the model. It's not necessarily recreating it every single time. I've done a wall component here, and I've also done a create level component, which lives right under the model category up here. And we'll show that example. But again, just feel free to explore. One quick note before I go too much deeper. I think I had some questions around category types that was getting missed. This actually is in the category spot. So anywhere you see the black pull down icon, things have kind of moved around slightly. So just keep an eye out for that and use the pull downs to read this stuff. It used to live over here somewhere, but just keep an eye out for this black component with a little drop down. All the components are still there as previously experienced. Okay, so how this is working, I basically have these curves. These are just out of the box vanilla Grasshopper curves that are creating some rectangles. And then as I change the size, it's going to regenerate all the walls and change the size here. So I can just do that. And it's going to flex. The other thing I've added is a radius that's taking the thickness. And I've got two controls. I've got a 6-foot width here and a 15-foot here. So I've got independent controls for those. I can just show that here. So you can see that's a radius. It's actually taking an individual. This is a native Revit wall right there. And then likewise, it's just doing that for over here. So if I was to take out this radius, that would just recreate this as just a rectangle. And you can also see that these are getting trimmed and joined as expected. So this is really great. One thing too that I have controlled is the number of levels I have. So I can change how many levels I have to, let's just do like 5. And you can see it's going to instantly regenerate that. And if I go back up to, 20, 25, I can flex this as needed. And that's going to instantly propagate. Okay. I won't get too much into the details of this, but what's cool is in the past, if you were to come back, save this, sync, close, you might regenerate and have multiple levels with multiple names. But now you can have a consistent naming strategy. So the only stuff I'm not maintaining in Grasshopper are the first built-in levels down here from level 0 to level, it should be 2, but it looks like I overrode that. Anyway, so long story short, that's what's going on. And then let's go ahead and just dive into the script now. Pretty straightforward. The biggest thing to understand here is I basically just have this levels component. I'm querying the levels. Again, this is all just from the dropdown level identity. I'm just extracting the name here just for some information to see what I'm getting. And then I'm just taking out the second level right here in the index. I'm building a series to help me create the component. So for this case, I just did a level, add level right here, drop that in. What it needs is 3 inputs, the elevation, the type, and the name. To get the type, I just queried that type by going up to element and element type right here. And again, it's a pink component, so you can query that. So I just went ahead and said, okay, grab me the element. This is also one of those set and get components where you can overwrite the element and type by putting an input in here, but I just want to query it. So I'm going to look at the output, and I've got my original elements up here and then their types. And you can see right there, that is the levels 1/4 inch head. So if I was to pick this right now, you can see that that type is in Revit right there as the 1/4 inch head level type. So again, I'm not going to go into the methodology for when and where you should be applying different level types. That's more for like discipline specific stuff that's outside the scope of this demonstration. But basically for there, you've got level 1/4 inch head, and then I'm querying that type out and just saying, go ahead and pick 1, just doing a list item component, list item right there. And the default is 0, so I just plug that in. They're all the same, so it shouldn't matter which one I get. I just need 1. So I pull out that type, goes from a big list to just a list of 1 item. And then I plug that into my type input right there. Again, that's just, I'm just kind of rebuilding this up from scratch. So I've got that single type picked. Now I just have to get some elevation heights. So what I did here is I just found the existing elevations in my model. And only a handful of these are maintained. So even, like for example, if I had done this without the persistence, this would take, it would recursively add levels, query the levels here, listen for those in the model, and then it would build a series of 25 new levels each time you ran the script. And every time you make a change, like if I did this is a change, every time I do that, it would then regenerate a new 15 levels on top of the end of this list right here. So that's a huge upgrade, because now I'm able to kind of revise the levels in the middle here. If I just recompute, you'll see that it kind of trims back down to the updated list. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. And basically, I just go through a series. I create a series for the numbers, right? So these are the heights, and I'm just pulling out that elevation. I'm starting it at 2, which is the second index. So I'm starting at the 0 index, the first index, and the second index right here. So this is index 2. And then I'm starting there at 2. I'm stepping by 20, which is 20 feet. And then you can see here it's going every 20 feet. And then this slider is what I'm deciding to control, which is the number of levels I want to have. I'm not going to talk about mixing levels and making a hybrid of that, but basically everything is 20 feet from this point upward. And then for this series, it's the same count in both cases. And then what I do here is I start at 3, and then I basically build a list every 1 step, so it's just incrementing by 1, and with the same count of heights, 2 levels. And then these are going to be my level names over here. Okay, so then once I do that, I basically just run this format component. You just type in format, and what you do for this is the sort of syntax with the curly bracket, open curly bracket 0, targeting the data input 0, colon, 00, and that's going to get you converted from this list to this list, which is going to give you those leading zeros if you add this syntax right here. Okay, and again, I'm just feeding that into the input for 0, which is targeted right there with that 0 input. I actually wouldn't even need this number 1. I could get rid of that if I wanted to, but it's not necessary. So then at that point, I'm just going to use a concatenate component, just using the ampersand right there for concatenate. And then I'm going to just append level to the front of the name. So putting that in, feeding in my text. And then the final step is just adding a little space there. So you can see right at the end, I've added a space just to kind of give it some breathing room and be more legible. Those are my names, and I just feed those names into the name input right there. And then tie my elevations, which is the heights, into this one here. So if I did that, it would go ahead and recreate that component and regenerate all that stuff. Now, if you do that, it's going to give you a warning. And let's check out what the warning says. It says the name must be unique. Okay, let's do that actually. Let's say if I formatted this to 3 digits, and actually let's just add a new format and do 3 digits. And then feed that into this segment here. Now it's gonna go through, and you can see it's added that level 3 right there. But if I take a look and hide that, now you can see there's actually 2 levels directly on top of each other. Now, if this is a wall component, it's actually going to flag a warning. But in this case, it's actually going to double up. So in some cases, you'll get a warning like walls. In other cases, you're going to get redundancy. Now, if you accidentally get redundancy as before, you can right click directly on the middle of the component and, on the output, right click on the output. So not the middle, but the output. And you can say delete levels, highlight levels, or release levels. Highlight is going to put it into my active selection in Revit if I want to kind of see what's going on. If I released levels, that's going to stop it being controlled by Rhino Inside. That's right there. And then if I deleted that, which is the case in this one, because I have duplicates, I would just be able to get rid of those. And I would say, are you sure? And it's going to show me exactly which one that is. If I didn't know where it was, I could pick that and say show. And it's going to go ahead and kind of find a view that can see it. And I can see right there, it's highlighted in orange. So this is all the standard kind of Revit warnings that you get. So I'm just going to say, okay. And that's basically it. So I can just go over here, delete levels, and I'm going to say okay to all. Okay. And if I don't want to keep using that one, I'm just going to delete that component. And so now this one is in fact maintaining those levels as I want. I can save this script. I can give it to my friends and colleagues across the other offices and projects. And all that data to keep that relationship is going to be stored in your central model. So it can be retrieved in other ways. So yeah. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention on this, again, I mentioned the duplicates. Just test this out. If you want to get the wall component going, just go through these inputs here. The one I'll mention is locating line. If you right click that, you can see you get the checkboxes for the different center lines here. So if I want to finish face interior, I could just pick that, think for a second, and you can see right there, it just made a quick adjustment. But that's controlling this locating line right here. And so that's really great, depending on how you want to calculate your walls. Typically that's really useful for making sure you have your calculations as expected. Again, it's pinned because it's controlled by Rhino Inside. Yeah, and then to get that trimming, which is basically the same as TR for trim extend, that kind of relationship there. If I didn't allow joins, and I just left that as the default, you would see it look like this, where it's got individual overlapping lines there. And if I change the locating line to finish face exterior, you can see it would actually join like that with the kind of cut inward like so. So it's really good to just keep allow joins together, because then it will trim up that corner as you expect. Yes, and I'm not going to go through each of these components in this video. I just want to kind of highlight that this is a really huge upgrade. I'm really curious what persistence you're going to get. I can see a ton of applications. Like, this is going to be a great feature for humming in the background to maintain kind of a digital twin of your script and hand it off between different authors of that script. So you could imagine using scripts for rationalizing panels, cladding. You could maintain relationships for key parametric elements. In this case, I'm just kind of doing a core just to kind of test out the wall feature, but I really wasn't thinking too much about the design intent for this one. Any curve you put in, with the exception of NURBS curves, will be allowed for the wall component. So like if I go to wall, whatever is allowed in this draw tool chest up here is there. What you're not seeing is your NURBS curve. So any kind of filleted arcs or standard arcs are good. We'll have to do a separate video on that just for cleaning up geometry. But anything you can do in here is allowed. The other one that you can do is, instead of a wall by line, you can do wall by face right here. And that gives you much more control with how you articulate the cuts of your face, so that you could basically control the modeling effort in Rhino, do your Boolean operations, all that good stuff, extract the face, and then map that into a wall by face if you want. So tons of flexibility, tons of options. The long and short of it is that you basically get to maintain a digital twin of your model. And now you get to make the choice, how much of that am I going to control in Grasshopper and Rhino, and how much am I going to control in Revit? All right, so that's it for this particular one. I just wanted to highlight what is happening with the capabilities of Rhino Inside. It's coming again, that's version 1.0 and beyond. So by the time you watch this recording, you may or may not already have that as the public stable release. Keep in mind that they're always looking to make feedback and updates. It's technically still in beta. So definitely go to Rhino Inside, pull your copy, test it out. I'm really excited because it's really getting consistent. The coloring language with the blue components, all the different types of components are coming out. It's really getting very robust in my opinion. I've already been using it to do a lot of QA/QC in my day-to-day workflows. So there's the sort of geometry creation side, and then there's also like the BIM health and maintenance side. And I'm already finding workflows that are very powerful in my day-to-day work. So I would love to hear from you what you're going to use with Rhino Inside with this feature. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think. And appreciate your interest, curiosity, and attention, my friend. And as always, Definitely, if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up to like it and share it with a friend. Would love to get more people in the community here at Sevenfold. And I'm looking to get more content out on a weekly basis. So definitely drop your suggestions in the comments. And if you want to get in a more structured learning environment, the BIM Academy, which is linked in the show notes, is the place to go. You can track your content. You can also download a copy of all the exercise files that you find here on YouTube. You can download a copy there from the store for your use. And otherwise, thank you again, my friend. My name is Tim Halverson. This is Sevenfold. And until next time, take care.